So our topic today is Office 365 and making it not an office product really, but bringing it into the classroom. So my name is Geri Coates. I'm actually a Microsoft Innovative Educator now, and I'm also a TOSA for my school. I serve one school, 9 through 12 high school, and this is my counterpart at Santa Maria High School, Matt Markstone. He's also a TOSA. He does have a voice.
I do. So thank you for coming. We understand, know it's the last session and all that stuff. So here we go.
Okay, so the bit.ly link at the bottom is actually the link to the slides if you want to follow along. My goal, or our goal when we set this up, is really an overview of what tools are available in the Office 365 suite and how they work in a classroom setting, because it really is different than an office setting. So here's the agenda, or our goals for this. We want you to know the difference between the online and the desktop apps. That is the number one thing that I've run into with my colleagues at school, is the confusion between the versions and why use one over the other. So definitely want to go over the different versions and understand what is Office 365 versus what is the desktop version. And then we have a couple of activities. We want to make sure that you're able to log in, navigate between the apps. You can understand how to change some things. We can veer and discuss as necessary depending on how things go, because this is a much larger room than we anticipated. So go ahead.
And we assume that since you're here, you're using Microsoft and Office 365 in your district. So if you're not, then we will have trouble when we get to the login issues. So,
is everybody here using Office 365 for school or considering it in one way or another? Okay.
Ready?
I know in working with a couple of my teachers who have been fairly tech averse, and they wanted to try new things, and so they jumped into the Office 365, and when they started running into, well, what is this and why is this? One of my teachers specifically said, I really just want to know the difference between these two versions because it's the same product. So OneNote was a really good example, because there's the OneNote online and then the OneNote that is downloaded. And the online version is on the right in the red. It's really accessible. So this is true for all of the different apps that are online and in the 2013 or the 2016. So Office 365 is online. Everything is constantly syncing, and you have access to it from anywhere that you have a internet connection, anywhere that you can log on. So it's super accessible. You can log in, you can make changes, you can update, you can get to it from anywhere. If you're in a hotel in the business center, you can get to it on your phone sometimes if you have the right apps. So that's the Office 365. The desktop version is the very traditional Office suite where it downloads onto your computer, and it has a lot more features. So I have the Office 2013 on my desktop, and in Word, in Excel, in OneNote, I have a lot more editing features in that full suite. So what I typically do, because most of the time when I want those features, I'm sitting at my desk working, or I'm sitting at home getting stuff done, I use the desktop version when I'm in my normal spot. I use the online version when I need to get to it from somewhere else, or when I'm trying to do some online collaboration with somebody. But if I'm really trying to create something from scratch and I want to make use of all those features, I use the full version. If it has a year after it, it's the downloaded, the 2013 or the 2016. Okay, Office 365 is online. Oh. Questions there? Okay. Oh, and some of the advantages to using the Office 365 or 2013 or 2016, is that they're file types people are used to. If you're using them within your organization or you're sending them out, they're doc files, they're spreadsheet files, you can download anything as a PDF. So everything is in a format that you can use with anybody. They don't have to be in your organization. When you're sharing things and working together, that's not necessarily true, but when you're done with something and you want to forward it out, you've created an assignment or you have created a letter that you want to email to somebody, the file types, you don't run into an issue where they don't have the right software to open it. So like I said, this is an overview walking through. So the first step is getting in. Everybody who's Office 365, the login currently looks like this. Okay, our school district used to host our email on its own server. Now we're on this. So anywhere I'm at, if I want to check my email, I just look for the Office 365 portal. Okay, it's no longer sitting on my school server, which means if my school's server crashes, I don't have to worry about my email disappearing. It's now living out in Microsoft land. Okay, so you log in here with your school email and your password, and then I've got a note down there at the bottom that you can always just search for Office 365 portal, and it'll get you here. Okay, so once you're in, this look familiar to everybody? Okay, so from here, these are all the different tools that kind of show up when you first log in. It's also, this screen doesn't have everything. If you're logging in for like the first time, or if you're logging in on a new device, you also, on where this comes in, right when you log in, you have the option to download the full versions of the Office 2013 or 2016. You can do it straight from here. And with our students, I walk them through this really, to actually get the full version on, we've deployed tablets, so that they can have the full versions of everything, and then they can also access the online when they're out. Go ahead.
One thing. If your login doesn't look exactly like this, your IT director can limit some of the things that are displayed up here, whether it's for you or your students, because your students may not need to see all that. So if you're missing something that you like, tell your IT director, but do it nicely. Okay, so once you're in, I've got 3 different screenshots here of different apps, because there's a lot in there that sometimes shows, or you have to make it show up. And does it look, especially down in the bottom right, does that look like what you're used to? There's a ton of stuff in there. So when I first log in, it goes straight to my email. That's where my homepage is. But if I click on that waffle up in the top left-hand corner, the 9 little boxes, then it shows me all my apps. I have up on the top of the screen the 9. It's actually not 9 in, the apps that pop up from the waffle. Okay, and mine I've actually customized a bit. You can adjust that. I know your IT person can make it be your school banner or school colors and things, but individual teachers can customize theirs as well. I've actually added a few apps into mine. So the boxes that are gray are not actually Microsoft products. They are different apps that work within the Office 365. They're like single sign-on. I go and I can click sign in with Office 365. And there's a lot of additional tools that are available that you can use your Office 365 account. TAC is one that is up there, which is a super simple website creation. And I use my Office 365 account to log in, and then I can edit it, and I didn't need a new account. And I can access it through my Office 365 portal. Okay, but down on the bottom right, you can see the apps that are up in the top section. I think there's like 12 right there. Those are the apps that are turned on by the IT director. Those are the ones that the school has enabled. You cannot turn them off. You can't make them disappear. You can make them not show up in your waffle if you don't use them. Yes? With our IT, we're allowed to get certain ones. And if I run into a problem, and then I ask them, so you may need to ask for, hey, I want to download this, I want to add this. I think it depends on the app and your structure of your IT and its flexibility. So the ones on the bottom are ones that I have found that I can sign into, or they're ones that I can add, and I have the place where you can find those a little bit later in the slides. So inside the waffle, or inside all of the apps, I organized these into kind of what they do, because they all show up together, and it was kind of like, why are they different colors, and why are they this? So you've got Outlook. Outlook is the tool for email and calendar, and you can share things, and your Outlook actually can connect to your OneNote, which is a tool that Matt uses quite a bit. The tools up in the top are your Office suite. You've got Word, you've got PowerPoint, your Excel. Down in the bottom, those are a little bit more productivity or collaboration. Okay, sites is like creating intranet sites, just places within your school district where you can house files, you can do groups and have people share things. Delve allows you to monitor shared documents, so that if I and Matt are working on a document together and he's made some editing changes, Delve will pull it up to the very top of the list, so I know that I need to look at that. So Delve helps you organize your shared documents. Newsfeed is kind of like a Facebook at work. It's interesting. Yammer is kind of like an internal Twitter. So if you have different conversations going on at school that don't need to be email, I don't know if you've ever had one of those email chains where
it's back and forth, but it's like one line at a time. It's a conversation. That takes place a lot simpler in like an instant messaging kind of a thing. And Yammer allows you to do that. You can send out a message to your whole staff, and it doesn't have to be in the email. Okay, and Tasks works with Outlook as far as getting a list. I want to have Matt, before we move on, mention something about Outlook and OneNote and keeping your OneNote a little, or your Outlook a little bit organized.
Oh, sure. So OneNote and Outlook, they play very nicely together. And so how many of you guys use OneNote? Just show of hands. Okay. So when you log into your Outlook, there is on the desktop version, there is a button at the top that says, send to OneNote. So when I get all my emails for Q, for example, when I got them, I just press send to OneNote, and I send it into my Q file or my Q folder inside my OneNote, and then I can delete it from my inbox, and I don't have to look at it anymore. But I still have the sender and the time and any attachments right in my OneNote, and I know exactly where they're at. And I can go the opposite way as well. So my boss yesterday said, hey, how are your sessions? And I said, well, here's what they look like. And I just was able to send him all my notes straight from my OneNote into my Outlook, and he got them, and he's like, oh, great, fantastic. He probably didn't read them, but it's okay. So you can do that, and it works pretty nicely.
Yeah, it works really well for like if you have committees or if you have some structured organization at school. When you get those emails, you can always send them to your OneNote that is for that committee. And so everything always stays in one place. It can be the agendas and the minutes, or it can be follow-up notes, but that way it all stays organized. And if you have it in your OneNote, you can access it as long as your OneNote is synced to OneDrive. You can access it from anywhere, and you can have everything rather than trying to track down individual emails or following a chain of emails back and forth. Okay, so once you've got all the pieces and you're in, now what? Okay, OneDrive. Is everybody school district, you are using OneDrive if you're using Office 365. That's kind of a silly question. Okay, so it's comparable to the other drive that gets a lot of play. It is a place to store everything. It stores all kinds of different files. You can store Word documents. You can store anything you want to save and you want to be able to access from somewhere other than your desk. You can save it into OneDrive. I know I have run into that situation where you're working on something from home, but you need that file that was at work. The OneDrive saves you from that. And you can access from any device that can be connected to the internet, so you can have access to all of your goodies, and you can communicate with anybody, and things are very shareable. So you can collaborate with peers, you can collaborate with your students or with your colleagues. It makes collaboration really simple.
One thing to kind of watch out for is when you are using OneDrive, when you're online, I'll go back a few slides, it just says OneDrive here, like OneDrive storage. But when you download it, if you have Office 2013 or Office 2016, it's going to say OneDrive for Business. And if students or teachers make the mistake of saving things to their OneDrive on their computer, it's not going to sync to the OneDrive here. You have to use the OneDrive for Business on your computer. And it gets confusing, but we'll just kind of keep going.
That's actually a really good point, because I personally made that mistake with a couple of files that I originally saved. I'm like, oh, they told me it's OneDrive, so I saved to OneDrive when I was looking for where I was saving a document to, but I needed to save it to OneDrive for Business. The Office 365, that is the school product, is the business solution. So anything that you're looking for, if it has that option of for business, that's what you want. Okay, Office 365 for Business or OneNote for Business. That is the big version. Whereas regular OneDrive is kind of like, it's an online account. Most MSN accounts have them now, to where they all have some OneNote storage. They can access the online files and documents in a much more limited version. If you have the full paid for Office 365, you have access to lots and lots more goodies. But that's what the little OneDrive is. Okay, so I actually learned something yesterday in the exhibit hall that kind of makes this a little bit different. When you're sharing or you're collaborating a document, like I said, you can access it from any device that has an internet connection. Okay, all of them, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, they're all the same. So you're online, you can collaborate. He and I could work on a document at the same time. We could talk to each other and go, what do you think about this slide? Do you want to change this? Makes it very simple. And so inside a document, when you are online, there's a couple of differences than when you're using the Office 2013 or the 2016, and it does look different than the full desktop version. Up in the very top where there's a black bar up there, that's where the title of your document goes. You don't save it in a file, save as, which was kind of a tricky thing for some of my teachers at school. They're like, how do I save this? And it's like, well, one, it's already saved. Since it's online, it's constantly saving itself. And two, you don't name it when you save it, you name it at the very top. So they click up there and they do that. And when you want to edit the document online, you have to click that edit document that's right there that he's pointing at. And you get two options, or you get options depending on what device you're on. If you're on a device that has the full suite, it will offer to open it up in Word. Or if you're online, it will ask, do you want to open it up in Word Online? Word Online is where you can collaborate at the same time. Okay? If you're using the desktop version, you can't collaborate at the same time. And then you pick who you're sharing it with, and you can share a couple of different ways. So you can share it by picking somebody and giving their email address. So I would just put in his email address and he would receive an invitation. Or you can do it with a link. You can limit your sharing rights to people who are inside your organization. Okay, so people in your school or inside your school district. Or you can open it up to be available outside of that. Now, what I learned yesterday in the exhibit hall from one of the Microsoft presenters was they were using the docs.com site. I know absolutely nothing about it. However, in sitting there and listening to it, it is one of the first things I'm going to go home and try to learn how to use better, because that is how the sharing of documents, particularly with students, it made it very seamless. When you share a document, this was my understanding, you upload it to docs.com, and then you get a link that you can share with parents, students, whoever, and they're no longer, it's supposed to simplify the process. Like I said, I heard about it yesterday. It's one of my goals for next week. As far as collaboration, one of the things that is super important to me is thinking about what my end goal is when I'm trying to share a document. What is the point of working with somebody? Do I just want them to see what I'm doing? Do I just need them to get it at the end? Or do I need them to help me edit it? Are we coming up with the content together? So depending on what my end goal is, will affect the way that I share my document. So you can create your document and then share with colleagues. If we're working on something together, then we are collaborating on what the end product will be. Then I'll share at the beginning and we'll try to work on it at the same time or asynchronously and leave comments for each other. But if I'm working on it, like I'm creating a template for meeting minutes or something, I can create it and then make it, then I can share it out when it's done. Or if I'm doing something that I want to share, but I don't want to send as an attachment, again, like not a template for creating minutes, but actually sharing out minutes from a meeting. I want everybody to have access to read it, but I don't want anybody to be able to change it. Then I have the view-only document. And I can do that by sending it out through that share button instead of an attachment in an email that takes up bandwidth and space and time and clogs up everybody's Outlook. Okay, in working with students, this is where I really, really, really want to learn the docs.com thing. When I work with students, I do collaborative documents with them, I've learned a couple of things along the way by falling on my face with students, and I would create something and be like, oh, here we go, we're going to work on this. And I share and they fill it out and it's like, oh, now I don't have it for next period. So I've learned to do some things by creating a template that is just mine, and then I share a copy with them, okay, so that I have mine that I can continue to use for every period. Another way to do it, if I have something that is content-based that I'm just providing to them, that I want them to read, they're going to answer some questions, they're going to do their own creation, I can create a group through Outlook. One of our physics teachers has been doing that. He uses the group feature in Outlook, and that's where he places all of his documents. And when he puts a document there, the students receive a notification that Mr. Rodriguez has put this document in the group file. And they can always go in and they can receive the files in groups. That makes it's very user-friendly for both him, because it's a one-step deal, and it's very user-friendly for the students. Anything? Okay, otherwise, when students open a document, they're gonna have those options. Do we wanna open in Word? Do we wanna open in Word Online? You're gonna need them to save a copy of the document. If you make yours view only, like if you make a worksheet and you share it to them, make it view only, and then when they open it, they're going to save it as a separate document so that it becomes theirs, and yours continues to stay blank. Okay? And then as far as students submitting work, how many of you have done collaborative documents with students in the past? Okay, have you found a simple way to collect work? Okay.
So you use OneNote class notebook? Okay. All right.
Class Notebook is one of our favorite tools. It's a very simple tool to use, and as far as their work is there and you can see it, and you don't have to do these steps at all. Otherwise, if you have an actual document that, like, they create an essay that they're not going to do in their notebook, you can have them. Some people like the email. I don't like receiving 180 emails for an assignment because that's how many students we see in a day. Or they can share it through Office 365, but then it ends up in your shared folder. And that shared with me folder gets very messy because you can't organize it. So one of the ways that we have started collecting work from students is by using what is the name of it?
It's just the Excel survey.
Yeah, the Excel survey. It's kind of like a Google form, but it's an Excel survey. You ask the questions. So if students share their link, they create the URL for their document, and they can pop that into the Excel survey. And then the teacher has a spreadsheet that they get with all of the URLs, and it's easy to just click, 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 and add the grade next to it. But again, I want to learn docs.com. Okay, and all three or four, because OneNote is also very similar, they all work about the same way as far as creating documents, sharing documents, returning documents, collecting documents. One of the things that I do when I'm creating something for my students is I create a template. I have this document and I want you to copy and then fill in. If it's like 5 questions along a page, I make sure I put a table box underneath the question so they know exactly where to start typing, and the box will grow with their answers so that it can get as big as it needs to be, but their words always end up in the right place. It makes it really easy for me to follow later. Okay. And that way you don't end up with all the various formatting issues of students. How everything's a different font. If you want it a certain way, you can create the template and they go in and add the content, and it's already in the font, the size, it has the structure you want. It's a good way to do training wheels for like essay formatting. Has anybody used Sway? Okay. So yeah, everybody else in here hasn't used Sway. Sway is a really cool tool. Sway is only online. It's not one that downloads. It is a presentation app. Okay, so you can sit and you can create a Sway in like 5 minutes. If you have the content, you add the content to the Sway and it makes it pretty for you. Okay, so this is a Sway. You're gonna have to push the button to go down. That I created. I added, go up just a little bit. I created a picture. I put the picture in. I typed in a title, down. And then I copied my resume in there. So I just copy and pasted some content, go down. Added a picture, and then I have a section of things that I'm proud of. I was able to add these pictures. All I did was I dropped in all these different pictures, and it goes, oh, these would look good in a stack. So it puts them in a stack that then moves and slides on its own. You can add video. So I don't know if we want to watch the Lone Nut video right now. It's very funny. Have you guys seen the Lone Nut video? A couple of you have. If you have not, it's a good video to see, especially after an EdTech conference. One of the points of creating this way was for me to show all the different kinds of file types that can go in, all the different kinds of content. I have a document where I have my resume. I have pictures. I have videos. I was able to pull in tweets. It is a very simple process where it just says pick a card and you just drop things in and it formats it for you. And if you don't like it, you click refresh and it formats it again until you really do like the way it looks. My favorite thing about this is using it with students. I don't use this for me very often to create presentations. However, if I have my students create a PowerPoint, a lot of times they get very caught up in the fonts and they get very caught up in the pictures and transitions and those things. This forces them to stay focused on the content. You add the content, The software does the formatting. So I've worked with students in classrooms where we're like, okay, we're gonna make a sway, and in 5 minutes we make a sway about pizza. It will search for pictures inside of the software. It brings up options. It does a Bing search right there. You tell it the topic and it will search. If you have tweets, it will do a search for a hashtag or for a particular tweeter. And you're not bopping back and forth between tabs or between things. It all happens inside. Okay, questions? I see some like, that sounds interesting looks. Okay, let's go back to the, okay, next. All right, so like I said, Sway is really powerful. It keeps students focused on the content, because in my English classroom, when I have them doing a PowerPoint on a topic, I don't want them to get stuck in the design, which is where kids like to be, and I completely understand that. I get very stuck in the design on mine sometimes, but if I want them to be focused on the content, find a picture, find content, add a description, add an adjective, use a sentence. That's what I want them working on. So Sway helps keeping them on the right track. There's no software to download. It's all online. So as long as they have an internet connection, they are able to work on it. It doesn't, there's no file type. It's an online document. Students are able to work collaboratively on these, so they can be a group or a team or a pair. They can work on the project from their own homes together. That's a nice trick, so that they're not trying to do group projects and they're not able to organize the time. And it's inside the Office 365 account. It's not an add-on. As long as it's something that's enabled by your IT, it's part of what's there. So it's not going out and creating another account. Because I know there's a lot of different ways to do some really cool presentations. I like Prezi, I've done emails. But I don't want students to have to go somewhere else and log in. Once they're logged into their Office 365 account, they can get to Sway and they can do this, and it's very simple.
This is kind of especially helpful if you work with younger students, because you don't want them going out and giving away their information again and again and again. This keeps it all within your district and all within Microsoft, so it's all under one umbrella. It's much safer for a lot of the students.
Right, they're not filling out a form with their name or their address, where you're kind of stuck sometimes choosing, you need to be honest and you need to provide information, but some of those sites, they want you to be over 13, and then are you creating a teacher login for students to all log into? All being inside the Office 365 is very, very nice. Okay, otherwise, I know I have been said, hey, can you come to the admin meeting in about 30 minutes to share what you've done over the last month? And it's like, sure. Able to throw together a really quick presentation that looks really nice really quickly. I drop in the content, I hit shuffle, and it makes it look good. And it looks like I spent a couple of hours on it sometimes, and it's like, woohoo. Or if you have that presentation you forgot you needed to do, very quickly. On the very bottom, it says you can create a presentation in front of the class. That is one of my favorite tricks, to walk into a classroom and go, all right, we're gonna do a presentation. I have them pick a topic. This is how I teach using Sway. But you can have your classrooms create a presentation just from a whiteboard up at the front. If you've got an interactive whiteboard, you can do all the work right there at the screen. We're gonna do it on dogs. Okay, so we need to do a Bing image search on dogs. It pulls up pictures. Slide this picture over here, this picture over here. Now we need some tweets about dogs. You click Twitter, you type in your term, and it searches it there. Very quick, very easy, come up with something very simple, and then you could compete among the classes. If different grade levels, or I'm a high school teacher, so I make things very competitive between the class periods, and I get some very good product. Okay. How about Office Mix? Has anybody used Office Mix? Okay, Office Mix will turn your PowerPoint presentations into either interactive presentations. You can add questions and students can click on their answers, multiple choice answers, or they can type in an answer using different tools, or you can make it a video. So you can run through your entire slides as a video. You can talk to it and you can record your audio over it, and you can make notes. It will allow you to, I've seen people do this for a substitute. So they have their lesson already created, and then they'll run through it one time at their desk, record their voice, going through the slides. They know where kids are gonna get hung up, so they make sure they can add that that content, that information in while they're doing their slides. They record it the night before they're going to be gone, they upload it, and the sub just has to hit play. So it does the PowerPoint as a presentation, just in a video in class. So it's really easy for kids. It's also really good for students who are absent or who are going to be away for a while, so they have access to the content of the class.
You can also drop that link right in your OneNote notebook. The kids have access to it all the time. And as well, you can go ahead and search on their gallery and find kind of any answers to a lot of questions. A lot of Microsoft's tutorials are on there. And I oftentimes use it for PD because I can't get people to come to the session. So I send it to them, and they're stuck with it.
Okay, Office Lens is a new one. It takes pictures, it uses the camera that is either on your phone or your tablet or your device, and it will turn it into a PDF. I know I have another app that I've used on my phone for this for a long time, but now having it actually as part of the Office suite makes it a little bit more seamless with the other products. So Office Lens, you can, when you take all those notes on the whiteboard and you don't want to erase them because they were so good, it will take a picture, and that is now a PDF that you can save. You can put it in your OneNote. You can put it on your website. Kids can always have it. Parents can see it. A good way to save stuff and put it in PowerPoint. I think so.
Let's see. Office Lens is not going to be on that thing. You don't add it there. You download it on your phone or on your tablet or whatever, and then you use it there. So your IT has no control over whether you use it or not.
That's a good answer. I didn't know that. Okay, so Classroom Notebook is one that some of you already said that you use. Matt is much more of an expert on Classroom Notebook, but it's one that I'm very curious about sharing with my staff and using because it allows you to have content delivery to your students. It allows you to have collaboration space with your entire class. And then each student gets their own page within the notebook where they can do their work and the teacher can see it and grade it and the student receives their feedback immediately. But they can't see each other's. So your teacher notebook has a page for each individual student. So the teacher notebook has like 35 pages, but then each student has the content, the collaboration, and then their work. And so they do their work. You can grade it right on it. You can mark it with an A, B, or C. You can work out some systems with your students by using the tagging function so that if they have a question, they can mark where they have a question with a tag. And then as the teacher, you can go in and search for that question mark tag and you can know where your students are struggling and you can respond.
And also there were 2 recent add-ins for this. Up until now, if you wanted to create a OneNote class notebook, you would have to do so by going through your Office 365 portal and clicking on Class Notebook. But now they have, I just learned about it today, so it's the OneNote Class Notebook add-in. And you can go on onenote.com/classnotebook, and you can download the add-in, and then you can do all of those functions that you used to have to do online from directly within your OneNote, including being able to push pages from one notebook to all of your notebooks, all of your class notebooks, or just a select group of students or whatever.
That's really new.
It was pretty awesome. And there's another one called Learning Tools, which you can also add in, and that will do everything from take text that's on a page and just get rid of everything else so it's just text. You can break it down so it highlights subjects and verbs in different colors. It'll even break words into syllables or read it to the students if they're struggling with a concept. So these are things we learned about like 15 minutes before we started. So kind of excited, but don't really know how to use them yet.
OneNote is something that is very much under development, and I know Matt experienced this at the beginning of the year, that there is a place in the OneNote, is it onenote.com?
Sure.
Where you can submit feedback, and they're very responsive. I use Twitter when I'm asking questions, and so that's where I get mine. But I know if I ask a OneNote question, there's like 2 or 3 people who will answer me normally within a day. And either it's, this is how you do it, or we will take that into effect. And we've seen changes over the past year, some significant ones. These add-ins are one. I know I saw one recently where they can create the notebooks via API, where your IT department can create all the class notebooks for each teacher so the teacher doesn't have to do it on their own, but that's something you have to work out with the IT people. Okay, and then inside there's an Office store that you can add all kinds of other apps, and if you search through, there's a lot of different stuff in here. I was really amazed when I went through and I found things that I have already been using. There's Khan Academy, you can add the videos into your slides, there's questions, there's Padlet is one of my favorite tools. Does anybody know of Padlet? If you use the Padlet backpack, I don't know if it works with the regular free open account, but if you use the school version of Padlet, it will work with your Office 365. Storyboard, that is in there. There's a lot of different options. There's GeoGebra. I think that's how you say that for math. That works a lot within the Office in the PowerPoint, where you can add questions and there's videos and there's some manipulatives. But at the Office store, there's a lot of things that are specifically intended to use in a classroom or with students, and there's things from K3, 3.6, and 9.12. There's things for every level. I had another thought. That's kind of the end. Did I go really fast? Questions?
About 20 minutes.
Do you have a lot of URLs to be able to like maybe
I do.
Yeah, we can get that for you right now.
Yeah. Okay, so it's bit.ly/O365 classroom, and that O is capitalized. So you can come back through those slides on your own. You'll be able to see that example sway is in there. We did also have an activity of document creation and sharing that you could follow. We could do that now. I don't know how the internet is running in the room. I've had hit and miss struggles with that over the weekend, as far as creating a document, sharing it, and turning it in. But it's one that you can look at and you can see how we do it with the Excel form. Other questions? Comments? Yes.
So the add-in addresses, I just wrote them down. It's onenote.com/learning tools. And the other is onenote.com/class notebook.
I know that I'm part of a group on Facebook that does Microsoft tools, and I know I'm seeing a lot of things coming out in the recent weeks and months. They are making lots of changes. There's lots of adjustments coming up. They're responding to feedback, like the learning
Tools.
The learning tool specifically, I was reading an article about how like you can clear out everything except the text, you can identify certain types of words, you can align that to your content, but it also can help with your students who have some learning difficulties. So it will help make things a little bit cleaner for students and you can control your content a bit better, but they are being focused on teachers and classrooms.
OneNote.com/class notebook, I believe.
Anything else? I feel guilty for ending early. No? Everybody ready to go get seats at the keynote?
Well, we want to thank you guys for coming, and please know we have our information is at the very end of the slide of this.
We do have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I'm Geri Coates, and it's SMHS EdTech. So both of us, those are our Twitter handles, and we answer questions if they come through that way. Not a problem at all. So thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate you coming to a last session of the conference. We know everybody is tired, and we really appreciate your time. You have made it to the end. Enjoy the keynote.
Thank you.